All right, so here's a fun fact. Over 80% of cars sit in people's driveway over 90% of the time, underused, while you could be making money with these cars, right? So my name is Delano Green and I run a Turo asset management company where I manage people's cars on the Turo platform or privately. In this video, I'm gonna show you specifically how you could do the same for yourself or onboard your first client to manage their first vehicle. And by the way, we've managed to scale up to about 52 cars in our current fleet right now this summer 2025, and I was able to make a lot of money for other people and for myself, right? So here is step number one in this 3-step format on how to onboard your first client. So step number one, identifying your first client. So the way how you identify your first client is just by looking for underutilized cars. So you don't want to pitch to everyone. You want to pitch to the right person in terms of looking for people who are actively ready to get rid of their cars. So one of the ways that I do this is I go onto Facebook and I would look for people who are already looking to sell their vehicles, right? So if I can find somebody who's already looking to sell their vehicles, I could just pitch them with a short script that's saying, hey bro, I see that you're trying to sell your vehicle. What about renting it? And I could make you some extra money in the process until you're ready to actually sell it, right? Half the time, majority of people would probably say no to this, but you could continuously pitch them over and over again or pitch different people, and 100%, I promise you, you will find somebody if the numbers make sense to them, if the deal look right, or if it's possible for them to actively do this, then they will naturally say yes. And the way how you can basically convince them by doing this is by showing them real life numbers of things that you've done before, or just deals that you've locked in before, or even just the possibility of how they can make a lot of money. The other way is by looking for the right person within your circle, right? So between your friends, your family, or somebody who would believe in you, this is one of the number one ways that you could basically onboard your first person. Say for instance, you have a family member who just have like a underutilized cars, who they're just traveling all the time, they're not around all the time, and their cars is just there sitting. You could literally pitch them to a point where you could tell them that, hey, the car is just sitting in the driveway. Instead of just having it sit, let us rent it and make some extra income. So if you could actively convince them to do this, now you've onboarded your first client, and then they will basically, you'd be having them making money for themselves passively while they do nothing, and you'll just be making money for yourself as well. The other way is by just identifying people who are in your neighborhood, which is just, they could be cold people who you don't really have their numbers, you don't really have anything for them, but what you have is you have their addresses because you're in the neighborhood and you're seeing them not utilizing their cars. So sometimes people, they travel a lot. Like a lot of times people would travel a lot, whether it's for work or for business or for something else. And you could just say to them, hey man, I see you're not even here half the time. How about renting your car and basically let it make some extra money on the Turo platform? And what you can do is you can just go over all the rules with them. Usually what I would say to you first is just study the Turo terms and services so you could know what to say to people whenever something actively goes wrong within their business. So if something goes wrong, say for instance with the car, you would know exactly what to say to them, whether it's like a client who crashes the car, a customer who's like damages the car or something like that. Half the time those things are actively taken care of by Turo, except for like cosmetic stuff, right? If it's cosmetic stuff, like say for instance they had some extra add-on onto the cars, obviously Turo wouldn't take care of that, but that would be your job to just communicate with these people and to make sure that they can be indemnified whenever something goes wrong. So step number 2 is lead with value. So leading with value is basically one of the number one ways you can onboard someone when it's time to do OPC for someone, which is manage their cars for them, right? So how you lead with value is by showing them what they can get out of the scenario first, rather than to lead with what you can get out the scenario first, right? So if you can convince somebody that this would be more beneficial for them rather than you, then 100% of the time you can convince these people to say yes to you, right? And how you lead with value is by showing numbers, showing expectations, giving them like a relief moment, giving them something to look forward to when it comes on to doing the business, right? So say for instance, you meet someone and they're actively trying to listen to the exact thing or the exact pitch that you're running towards them about their cars, right? So how you could lead with value is by saying, hey, I've helped Tom made X amount of money during his travel, and I could pay him X amount of dollars passively while he did nothing, and I just managed his car for him, right? So naturally, if you can tell somebody a story that you did for somebody else, people would want to be that person. They would wish they were that person. They would be seeing themselves in that person's shoes, right? So if you could lead with value in that way, or showing them that, man, Tom was on vacation and I was just paying him X amount of dollars. So he basically paid for his vacation while I was just here managing his car that was just sitting in the driveway anyways. So half the time, if you basically can show people this, or clearly explain yourself to people, then naturally they would want to experience the same thing that you are telling them about for somebody else, right? So this is how I would lead with value, and this is exactly the way I would do it. And another way how to basically keep calm is by not over explaining, right? You can lead with questions, or asking them certain questions like, hey man, like I see you go on vacations all the time, or I see you travel all the time. What about if I could make you some extra money that could cover these expenses for you, right? How would you feel about that? Or say for instance, you know somebody with like a high car note, or they have like a fairly, like not crazy, but just a normal car note. And you would say to them, hey bro, your car is just sitting there half the time. I see you, I know you're paying a car note on this car. How about we rent this car out for you and we could make you some extra money? And you want to basically approach people who they have like the stomach or the tolerance to do this type of business. So you want to target people who either they have their own business before, or you know them as like a person who, I wouldn't really say risk taker, but just a person who is able to afford this. Like say for instance, if they just naturally have 2 cars, or if they just naturally have like an extra car that they're just not utilizing, or maybe they just don't even drive that much and you just see them in the neighborhood and stuff like that. You could lead with value in this way by showing them that you could help them cover this car note or whatever this car is costing you every single month if we just rent it out half the time that it would be just there sitting anyways. So this is the last step that you basically could use to do it. So you have to learn how to build trust fast. So this is step number 3. So if you could build trust fast, and the way how you could do it is just offer like a free 30-day trial of doing the whole business for them. So what you can say is, throughout the first 30 days of doing this, I won't even take a split for myself, or I'll take such a minimal split that you want. You will basically be getting all the money, right? So what would happen is, if you could produce a lot of money for this person in the first 30 days of renting this car, you would be able to build trust fast with this person, right? Because what you can do is just show them that, hey, you are not here to just make a bunch of money for yourselves. You're just here to build trust between you and this person, right? So one of the deals that I've basically done, and this was probably one of my best deals ever, which I started off with like a 70-30 split. And because I knew that the guy basically, he was like kind of skeptical about the whole situation, you know, so what I said to him is, bro, instead of just paying 70-30 or paying me the 30%, here what? Let's do 90-10 or 80-20. And then we basically settled at 80-20. I gave him 80% and then I took 20% for myself. And then I said to him, if I could just get some Zoom calls from you, which is like some mentorship calls, stuff like that. I basically led with trust, right? So I built the trust fast between me and this person, because not only the Zoom calls got us closer together, but we were able to pay him more of the money. And to be honest, I actually won in that scenario because that guy gave me great mentorship, which is he gave me something so invaluable, which was his time and just his brain work, where I was able to like pick his brain about certain topics. I was able to talk to him about certain things that I was going through, and he was able to help me. And you have to think about it, right? If a person is gonna have 2 or more cars, that's not an idiot, bro. That's somebody who you genuinely could talk to, or somebody who genuinely could give you like advice, right? So it's like, this is one of the fastest way you could build trust first, by just negotiating something else besides money when it comes onto this person, and just giving them more money up front, which would allow them to see that you're just not in it for the money, you're basically in it to build a relationship with this person. And one of the other ways is you could use like photos, videos, and just something else that could show testimonials that could show that, yo, you've done this before for somebody else and you're able to do it again for this person, right? So, or you could basically say, hey man, I've been renting my cars out and they've actually been making a lot of money for myself, and I genuinely feel like I could do the same for you. So if you're a person who's doing Turo right now and you basically are renting your own cars, you could basically scale up more cars without even buying them, right? And this is one of the main things that I did, or what I realized in my business, that allowed us to scale up to 52 cars, and it gave us such authority in the space. When somebody just think about managing their cars or something else of the sort, the first thing they're doing is they're calling my name, or my name would be in the conversation of this process, right? So this is how I build trust fast, with a lot of videos, a lot of testimonials, and just basically showing people that, hey man, I'm not just in it for the money, I'm just in it to network and make sure that I can build a relationship with you right now. Because you have to think about it, right? If you and somebody work together for a long period of time where you're renting their cars out and they're allowing you to do this and make money for them, the funniest thing that can happen is, in the long run, this person could turn around and help you with something else that could be very, very beneficial for you, right? And I have multiple stories of people it just happened to me naturally, where I rent their cars out, I made them money in the beginning, and they basically was able to help me with something that I was struggling with on my end or in my life. And the other way is basically just showing people that this is not just a side hustle for you, right? And go in with certain terms which would show them that you're treating this whole thing like a real business. And if you could show them that you're treating it like a real business, they would naturally build more trust as fast as possible, because they would see in clear writing what happens when something goes wrong. Because this is the natural thing that people think about whenever you approach them with some business idea or just something else of the sort. They're naturally going to think about what happens when something goes wrong, right? So if you could clearly state in the contract what really happens, how you're going to cover things, what's going to take place as soon as something happens that they weren't expecting, or some unforeseen situation, then you naturally are going to be able to build trust with this person, because they're going to know that you have their backs and you're going to basically take care of the problem whenever it shows up, right? So those are 3 ways that you basically can use to onboard your first person when it comes on to OPC, and basically scale when it comes on to just doing a business like this. So if you want the exact message or the script that I use, or maybe even a copy of my contract, click the link below where I'm going to put it in the description, where you guys could just check it out, and you could check out like the template of how it is. You don't have to do it word for word. You could change up some stuff on there. But however, subscribe to the video or subscribe to this channel so that you could see more content just like this that could help you in your Turo business, or help you scale without even purchasing any more cars for your rental company, right? So thanks for watching the video, and I'll see you in the next one.